Let's talk about every single horror game that's releasing in January. First, let's start with the games that we don't quite know what date they're releasing in January, but they're releasing sometime in January. First, we have House 2. As a terrible storm rages on, a young girl tries to survive in a house hell-bent on unaliving her and her entire family. Then we have Fear the Time Loop. Sheriff James Cooper is slowly bleeding to death in an unfamiliar hospital, but the moment his life ends, everything starts over. He has 15 minutes to break this endless cycle, discover the truth, and find a way out before it's too late. Now we have Sector Zero. This is a physics-based dark sci-fi puzzle adventure where you play as a fragment of an ancient hive mind entity. On January 6th, we have Death Machine. Conquer the mechanical citadel in Death Machine, a Metroidvania with a roguelite item system. Gather items to gain strength, navigate the perilous machine world, leverage the aid of ancient demons, and seek out dangerous denizens to defeat before the forces of the machine close in on you. On January 7th, we have Past Fate. It's an open-world, massive multiplayer game set in medieval fantasy world where the player's freedom is the key element. So what is your fate, it says. On January 9th, we have Pathologic 3. In this psychological horror game, you are a doctor with only 12 days to save a town from a mysterious plague. On January 12th, we have the long-awaited Quarantine Zone. Command the checkpoint in a collapsing city, screen survivors, manage scarce resources, and hold back the undead. I'll be streaming this on the day it comes out. On January 13th, there's Hank Drowning on Dry Land. Think Batman, but always drunk and he can time travel. January 16th is Broken Lore on Follow. It's a first-person psychological horror game that explores the impact social media has on mental health through the story of Anne, a victim of bullying trapped in a surreal nightmare. On January 19th, we have Hungry Horrors. Hungry Horrors is a card-based adventure inspired by British and Irish folklore. It blends deck building and cooking with narrative. On January 23rd, we have Wicked Seed, modern-day horror RPG with tactical combat and survival horror roots. Then Deadway comes out on January 26th. It's a co-op extraction horror about surviving a nuclear apocalypse as a small group of people on a train scavenging for various scrap to upgrade the train and use your voice for surviving. Then on January 29th, we have I Hate This Place. It's a craft-based isometric survival horror game with twisted monsters and a warped reality. Scavenge and build to survive terrifying days and nights while using stealth and noise to fight enemies that stalk by sound. It's got an 80s vibe. January 27th, we have Obey the Voice. You are here to listen to the voice. Do what he says, but don't listen to the other voices. On January 27th, we have The Spirit Lift. It's a retro horror deck builder roguelike set in a haunted hotel in the 1990s. January 29th is The Midnight Walkers. Fight, scavenge, and extract in The Midnight Walkers, a hardcore FPS game with deadly zombies, dangerous players, and valuable loot. On January 29th, we also have The Perfect Pencil. Lost in the Kingdom of the White Beast, will you find your way out? The Perfect Pencil is a story-driven action platformer that throws you into the innermost depths of the human mind. And then finally, on January 30th, we have The Ninth Charnel. A first-person psychological survival horror game. The Ninth Charnel is filled with rich and frightening atmosphere. While exploring the many mysteries of the world, you must survive whether you do it through stealth or by using weapons. There is a ton of new horror games coming out in January. Which ones have you heard of? Which ones are new to you? Which ones are you going to play? Let me know.